Fantasy football degenerates, we are back for the week 2 quarterback rankings. Let's not waste any time. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll get right to the video. Starting us off in tier 1, these guys, there's no questions about these fantasy quarterbacks. They put up some big points in week 1. We expect them to continue to do that throughout the season. But to start it off, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, these guys are just great fantasy options. Throw them in there, no worries. Down in tier 2, we have a bunch of good quarterbacks here as well. Starting off with Kyler Murray. Obviously, there's just a little bit of gap, I think, between him and the guys that we had in tier 1. But then we round that out with Kirk Cousins, who looks like their passing offense in Minnesota is going to be great. Wilson, Brady, and Burrow round out the tier 2. Obviously, Burrow had some issues in week 1, threw 4 interceptions, but we saw him have a game like that last year against the Chicago Bears team and then bounce back and really perform well for the rest of the season. We don't expect that to continue, so throw Burrow in there without worrying. Down in tier 3, we've got some guys that I really expected better out of in week 1. And guys like Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, I'm not real worried about them, but I do think there is a gap between them and the guys in tier 2 for now, at least. That could change here over the next few weeks, but these guys just need to be more consistent. Some of these guys just have a hard time because of their receiving core, like Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely could have started off the game with a touchdown, could have changed everything in line for that game. So we're not too worried about him. We're not really worried about any of these guys, really. I'm not. Some of the guys may not pass for as many touchdowns, but like Trey Lance and Justin Fields, their rushing ability played in a messy game last week. It'll be interesting to see how much more their rushing ability is utilized in a clean setting, as well as will they improve passing the ball. Then looking at guys like Winston and Wentz, are they going to throw as much as they did in week 1? Obviously, both of them had close games that got close and tossed it up a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure we're going to see that type of volume on a week-to-week basis, especially in New Orleans, where if they have the lead, I think they're going to lean on Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram a little bit to run the ball, but both look good in week 1, especially from a fantasy perspective. Down here in tier 4, there's a lot of question marks in this tier, right? Is Stafford's arm all right? Is Geno Smith for real? There's only a few guys in this that have some rushing upside, and that's why I've got Mariota at the top. I think it was 72 rushing yards this week. We expect Atlanta to be trailing. Obviously, they weren't trailing the entire game in week 1, but still ended up losing. I expect him to be trailing. I expect him to have to run more and have to pass more and open up some more fantasy possibilities. And just with that rushing upside that we saw early in his career, it's still there. We saw it when he started his one game in Oakland or Las Vegas. And we've seen it here in his first start with Atlanta. Mariota is going to be one of the best rushing quarterbacks on the year, I think. And that's going to lead to some fantasy production. Matt Stafford, that first game was a struggle. Obviously, he's still got his safety net cup. I think he'll be all right, but I don't know if he's going to have that top-end fantasy production that we're used to seeing out of Stafford until that arm heals up a little bit or he gets used to it. Maybe he was just knocking off some rust since he didn't get to throw a lot. We'll have to see about that going forward, but it really looked like something was off in week 1. Davis Mills is a guy that continues to surprise me. He could end up being a tier 3 guy here in the next couple weeks if he continues to play well. I wasn't a big fan coming out of college, but he's really changed my mind. Down here in tier 5, it's a little bit different than last week. We had 3 guys in there. One of them made me look like a dummy. Geno Smith played really well. He's moved up to tier 4. Now here in tier 5, we get Cooper Rush replacing Dak Prescott, and we have Mac Jones joining the group, having back spasms. That team, that offense just did not look real well in week 1. We don't expect their offense to remain that bad, but when you've got a DC as your OC, who knows what's going to happen? They've got some confusing stuff going on there in New England. Not sure exactly how that's going to play out for Mac Jones, but when you couple that with the back spasms, right now I do not want to start him in fantasy. Then we've got the other 2 leftovers from last week, Flacco and Jacoby Brissett. We don't really want to start these guys. We'd rather look for other options, whether it's on the waivers or through a trade. So skip this tier 5. That's my week 2 quarterback rankings with tiers. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like and subscribe. And if you want to watch the other tier videos or other Roto Heat content, make sure to check out the playlist here, and you can subscribe here.